So, the last meeting kind of ended off like it was really bad because the meeting ran out of time. So this one probably won't run out of time since it started at 5:57. So, yeah, let's continue off of it. So all you have to do is go back to Roblox Studio. So, like, if even if before you close the game, it would like ask you to save. So I'm assuming you saved. Okay, so go to the game. So just let me know if you didn't save. But if you did save, then you can say you saved in the chat, so I can know what we have to do. Okay, saved. Okay, so if you didn't save, this is what was going on before. So I'll just copy and paste into the chat. That's what's the script right here. So we were going over conditionals. So now that we did that, I'll show you how to change the brick color or the color of a part. So we can, instead of saying this, the function, we can just remove all of this. So you can remove the function. Don't remove the variable for value, but just remove the function because that's no longer needed. And now let's move this script over to the workspace and insert a part by going over to home and pressing part. You can choose a block, a sphere, a wedge, a corner wedge, or a cylinder. We'll go for a block. And before we go into the color system, let's go over a few properties. So first, I'll just move the properties here. Okay, so I'll just move it like this. I think that's good. So first we have brick color, which is we went over this yesterday. Then the cast shadow. This it enables if it can cast a shadow. So the shadow right here, if you press the check box and make sure it's blank, there won't be a shadow. But if you check it, there will be a shadow. Then we have material, so you can change the material of your part right here. So you can change it to asphalt, you can change it to basalt. And if you want to like change the material without like using your mouse, you can just use the arrow key. Brick, but you have to make sure you have material selected so that you can click on it. Cobblestone, concrete, corroded metal, cracked lava, diamond plate, fabric, foil, force field, glacier, glass, granite, grass, ground, ice, leafy grass, limestone. Yeah, so it's like that. And there's a lot of materials you can select. We'll just go for the smooth plastic. Then we have other stuff such as material variants. Those are like variants of the materials. You can like upload your own images for to like change a material, so it's customized. Then we have reflectance. So reflectance, it's kind of the name. It reflects. It's like a mirror. So if you change the reflectance to 1, then it'll reflect the sky above. Since the thing above it's the sky. If you change it, I mean to 1. If you change it to 1, then yeah, like completely reflects. Change 0.5, kind of reflects. We're gonna set it to 0. For transparency, if it's at 0, that means it's completely solid. And that's like the default. If it's at 1, you can't see it at all. And you can make it like in between too, so it's kind of visible and kind of not visible. So like at 0.5, it's half visible and half not visible. We'll leave it at 0. You can change all of these properties through a script. So then we have the name. So you can change the name of it. So instead of saying part, we can say part 1. right? Or whatever, and changes that. And that's how you reference it in the script. And the parent, we can change it. So if you click on it, we can like choose replicated storage. And now the parent's replicated storage. We're going to keep it into the workspace. Then here's the size. So it's uses X, Y, and Z vectors. So we can have a size of 1, 1, 1, and it will be a perfect cube. And then we can have a size of 5, 5, 5. That's also a cube. Perfect cube. Then we can have a size of, let's say, 5, 4, 5. And then then it'll kind of shrink on the one side because the middle so it's X, Y, and Z. So X, Y, and Z. So we'll just leave it at 1, 4, 5. Or instead of using that, you don't have to change the size by numbers. You can use the scale tool and drag it down. So the size can increase or decrease. And you can change about how fast, or like not fast, how wide it is per drag. So this is 2 studs right now. You can see it's right there. But we can change it to 1. So instead, we have more, we can customize it more. And we'll just leave it like that. And we're gonna go to the collision. So, oh wait, before we go, is there any questions? Okay, no questions. Okay, so let's move on to the collision. So if you press can collide, then that means it won't collide even with the base plate. So if can collide is off, wait, no, like if can, so player, they walk onto it. If the can collide's on, then they can walk over the part. So this is the player where my mouse is at. Then they can just walk over it. So they go up and then back down after you get off the part. But if can collide is off, then the player just goes right through it. Then we have anchored. So if it isn't anchored, let's say it's floating in the air and not on the ground, then it'll just fall back thanks to gravity. But if it is anchored, it'll just stay floating into the air. And then, yeah, that's for the properties. Let's start off by changing the transparency. You can use that for reflectance as well. So let's do local transparency. Actually, we don't need a variable for transparency. It's pretty short. So let's make a variable for the part. So local part equals script dot parent. And what this means is that it references the parent of the script, and before it can work, we have to move the script into the part. So now the parent of the script is part 1. So now we can just use script.parent to reference the part instead of like game.workspace.part1. You guys get it? You guys get that? Okay. Okay, so now we'll change the parts transparency. So let's start off with part.transparency, or you can choose reflectance, or you can choose any property of the part, right? But for transparency, since this uses a number value, we'll do transparency equal. We can't go over 1 because 1 means it's completely invisible. So let's go with 0.5. So that's for transparency and reflectance. So if we press F8 to run the game, Yeah, it changed. The transparency changed to 0.5 after 3 seconds because in the script we have it so the value becomes true after 3 seconds. Okay, so now let's change it so it's anchored after 3 seconds. It becomes unanchored. So we'll leave it at anchored. So we'll put in the air, leave it at unanchored, not anchored. Wait, no, anchored. Sorry about that. I just got a bit confused. So for anchoring and for collision, you use a Boolean value or true and false. And that's for like, because it's a checkbox, so this means it's true or false if there's a checkbox instead of a number. So if you see a checkbox here, that means true or false. So let's just test it. So after 3 seconds, it will fall to the ground. Yeah, there we go. See, falls to the ground. So then we have the collision. Dot collision. No, not dot can collide, not collision. Dot can collide equals false. So after 3 seconds, let's make sure it's anchored. So after 3 seconds, you can go over it. Okay, no, since it took 3 seconds for us to load, so that didn't work. Let's change it to 5. And also maybe the part it's can collide is off. No, can collide is true. So let's test it again. Okay, so let's go here. There we go. We fall through since the can collide is off now. So before we move on, any questions? Okay, so no questions. If you have a question, you can just leave it in the chat anytime. So let's move on to the color. So let's remove the part that can collide equal false. Let's do the color. So let's start with brick color. So part dot brick color equals brick color dot new, and then we'll do in a quotation marks, which means string. Let's do really red. Okay, so what this means is that it's first we have to reference that the brick color, then we have to reference, or our argument will be what we want to change it to. So we can change it to really red, but we first have to make sure we create it. So we do brick color dot new equal really red, or you can make that into a variable. So let's make it into a variable, local color equal brick color dot new really red, and then you can just type in color instead. So if we test that, after 5 seconds, it will become red or really red. There we go, turn really red. Then we have color 3. It's kind of similar, but so what we do here is color 3 dot new, and that's really it. Then you can just click on this and just choose your own color by dragging it around. So I'm gonna go with like a orangish thingy. Yeah, that's kind of orange. Let me just move it right here. Or you can just type it in yourself, but you can always just use that to make your color. And then we have to change this from part dot brick color to part dot color equals color 3 dot new. So let's test it out. And there we go, changes. So any questions? Okay, seems like there are no questions. And let's move on. So now I'll show you how to make a loop. So let's make a loop so it continue it changes the color and the transparency every like 5 seconds. So we do not need this value thing anymore and this weight. We just need the local part, color, and a new variable for transparent. Actually, we don't need that since that's just a number. So let's make a loop. Let's start off with a forever loop. You might think it's like forever and then something, right? But no, it's worded a bit differently, but it acts the same way. So we do while true do, and then end it off by pressing enter. And this acts like the same way as for everything because it's going to stay true, right? Like forever. So that means it's a forever loop. And then let's change it. So the part dot transparency equals 0.5, part dot color equal color. Let's make multiple colors. So let's make 2 colors. So let's make a new variable, color 2 equal color 3 dot new, and let's make it blue or teal, cyan. Then we'll do a task dot wait. Let's do a 2-second wait. Then we'll change the transparency to 0. Then we'll change the color to color 2. Okay, so then we want to add a wait after that so we can actually see like that changes. So task.wait 2, and let's test it out. So press F8 to run the game. And yes, it's changing in a forever loop, meaning until the game stops, it'll keep on doing this. So any questions? Okay. So now that we have loops, I'll show you like how to create a new part. So we have this loop, right? How about we add it? So after the after the loop ends, before it goes back to doing it again, let's create a new part. So let's make a variable, call it local new part equal instance dot new, and let's just use a regular part. So instance dot new, so all of these stuff in here are instances. So like the part 1, the value, all of these stuff are instances. So it creates a new instance and we're selecting part. So dot new always means that it creates a new thing. So after that, let's do new part dot parent equals game dot workspace. So let's do that and then let's run it. And yeah, it creates a new part. And yeah, it looks like it's not creating any more parts. Most likely because we're not using clone. So it only does that once. But if we use a clone, it can keep on doing that over and over. So then we'll do the dot parent equal game dot workspace. And then let's just add that right. Let's just leave it there. Let's test that out. So let's do a new part. New part dot clone. So we're gonna use colon clone. So that calls a default function where it clones it. And then let's just change that to a variable. So local new clone equal new part clone. Let's change that. So the new clone, dot parent equal workspace, or not workspace, game dot workspace. Create 2 parts. So yeah, since we use a clone, it created 2 parts. And yeah, it's created more. It's continuing and creating parts. As you can see, the parts are just spawning in there. You can see that there's parts there. Just look at the Explorer and it's showing that the parts are being cloned. So any questions so far? Okay, so we're running out of time. So in this last 5 minutes, show you how to save, since on the last one I couldn't, since the meeting stopped or webinar. Then so we go to file, then you go to save to Roblox, and it saves. But if you didn't save one before, you go to file, save to Roblox as, not publish. I accidentally clicked publish. That means it publishes to the actual server, and it publishes to Roblox, meaning that you can play it on Roblox. But we're going to save to Roblox as, let's create, and then press create new game. Let's call this programming webinar. Description, you can add a description here. Actually, the name I'll just change, add name here. Then the creator, you can set it to yourself, or if you're owner of a group, then you can set it to the group. And the genre, you can change it to any genre, so adventure, building, comedy, fighting, FPS, all. I forgot to mention that, all. Horror, medieval, military, naval, RPGs, sci-fi, sports, town and city, and finally Western. Then you can also set what device is compatible with. So until you have mobile controls, you can't really use phone and tablet, and you can't use console either until you have the controls for that. And same thing with VR. So it's automatically going to be a computer since it's made on the computer. But if you have the support for phone, tablets, consoles, and virtual reality or VR, then you can just select it and it'll probably show this, agree, and yeah, that's what you just do. So I'm just going to set it on computer. Team create. If you want to create a game with multiple people, then you want to select this option, right? And if you want to learn more, you can just press that link. And now we're just going to press save. And there we go. Successfully saved. And then when you open Studio, you'll find it and you can continue editing it. So any questions? Because this is the end of the webinar. If you have no questions, you can leave. Oh, and before that, I'll just add in the script code in case you messed up. So I'll add it into the chat. That's what the code that I have.